Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hello and welcome once again. It's yours truly, Stuart Andrew Alexander, back again with another exciting guest who is somebody who has not won an Olympic medal, nor has he climbed Everest, but in June of 2015, he celebrated 26 years in business as a professional speaker, humorist, and a magician. His specialist topic is the mindset needed to achieve, build resilience, and manage change, and he's certainly no stranger to challenge and change himself. Apart from running a successful business single-handed, one of his most recent personal achievements is losing 7 stones. That's just shy of 44.5 kilograms of excess weight. And he's here today, ladies and gentlemen, to speak about some of the problems, some of the obstacles, and some of the misconceptions surrounding the people he helps the most in an ever-changing business world, and more importantly, what we can learn from his insights and experience. So, with that said, without any further delay, let's welcome him to the show, often referred to as a motivational, energizing speaker, John Hotowka. John, welcome to the show.
Stuart, thank you very much for inviting me. It's good to be here.
You are so welcome, John. I'm so excited to have you on here. And we've done a little bit of research into you, and some of the things that you have out on the internet is just amazing. We just love the fact that you are an educator and you're an advocate for the people that you help the most, but we just love the way that you do it, and you bring in humor, and that's what we love around here. So you're so welcome, John. You're so welcome. So with that said, let's just set the tone for the rest of the show.
Okay.
And briefly, John, could you just describe who is it that you help? In other words, who's your perfect prospect, John?
They tend to be medium to large organizations. I tend to help individuals and teams, and also entrepreneurs to build resilience and stay focused and motivated to achieve their goals. So they're the perfect prospects. They're the people that I tend to work with.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds like the kind of people that tune into the show.
Yeah, sure. There tend to be people who work on their own. So there might be salespeople, it might be franchisees, could be directors. In fact, recently I seem to be doing quite a bit of work in with the housing associations, because they go through a heck of a lot of change, and professional people as well. But it tends to be medium to large organizations.
Excellent. So you're working with these medium to large organizations and individual entrepreneurs. And over the 26 years of your experience, can you just share with us briefly, how is it that how do you help them, John? Go over a couple of problems, whether they are real or perceived in the people's minds who you help, the kind of problems that you solve for them.
Okay, most of my work is as a speaker, so I tend to speak at a lot of conferences. And the way I tend to help people is that, I tell an inspiring story, but I give them tools, insights, I give them techniques, because I find that the people that I'm talking to, the people in my audiences, quite often in our everyday working lives, we lack focus sometimes, or sometimes we think we lack time. There's so much to do with so little time. We've got so few resources, and we tend to have knee-jerk reactions into what we think we need to do, as opposed to what we should really be doing to keep us on that straight and narrow and keep us focused on our goals.
So, John, in terms of the topic of focus, or the lack of focus, why do you think people, I can't say suffer from it, but why do you think that's something that's apparent in their lives? Why do they lack focus?
Right. I don't think it's, you're certainly right, it's not what that they're suffering. It's because what tends to happen is in our everyday working lives, we're just under so much pressure to get things done. And quite often we can distract ourselves and we can do unhelpful things. So what I mean by that is I talk about the mindset needed to either achieve a goal or build resilience or manage change. And the first thing that we need to do is to become more mindful of unhelpful thoughts and actions and behaviors that we have. Because when we're mindful of those unhelpful thoughts and behaviors, then we can do something about it. We can change it. So instead of just coasting through life automatically and almost being robotic because we're going from one task to another, we need to find a way of slowing down. And when we talk about focus, for me, that's the main message. The main message is to slow down. The challenge that we have, and the challenge that a lot of my clients have, is that they think that they don't have time to slow down. And for me, slowing down doesn't mean, it just means pausing, really. And we just need to pause just for a minute, 30 seconds at a time, maybe 4 or 5 times during the day, just to give us that little bit of time to to reflect on what it is that we need to do. So it's basically about slowing down.
Now, John, we are talking about people within the business environment, right?
Yes, we are. Now, what does that happen? Okay, let's have an example here. Let's say that all right, the basic premise of being more mindful, and I'm talking about listening to that little voice in our heads. Because when we observe what that little voice, because we all have that little voice in our heads that we talk to, and sometimes that little voice is helpful and sometimes it is unhelpful. And this is how you can tell if you have a belief that isn't helping you to achieve a goal. If there is something that you should be doing, if that action is a benefit to you, and if that action is not life-threatening or illegal, and if you're talking yourself out of that action, out of doing that action, then the chances are you have a belief that isn't serving you. So let's put this into the real world now. Let's say that we're in a business environment, we go out networking, and we might meet somebody. And at this networking event, we get on with this person, and then we have a great time. We exchange business cards. And they say, "Is that really what you do? That's fantastic. Let's get your people to call my people. Let's do lunch. Give me a call. I'm sure that we could possibly use your services." And we might come away from that event. And then a couple of days later, it's time to do the follow-up call. So we take out the business card and we think, I can't believe that event the other day. It was phenomenal. It was a great event. And I met this guy and he said we could possibly do business with each other. I'm going to give him a call. Here we go. Hang on a minute. He said we could possibly do business. He didn't say we could do business. He said we could possibly do business. He said, mind you, at these events, people are usually polite. It probably didn't mean it. And it's probably very, very busy. And if I don't really want to pester them, and I'm busy myself, and I'm not going to bother. And we talk ourselves out of it. Now, I'm not sure if that was a good example for all of our listeners, but I'm sure that people can think of a situation where there is something that they should have been doing that would have been of benefit to them, and yet they've talked themselves out of it. So there is a situation with this networking example, for instance, where the situation is of possible benefit. It's definitely not life-threatening, and it's definitely not illegal, but we find ourselves talking ourselves out of it. Now, if we are intellectually aware that we're talking ourselves out of something that is not threatening or life-threatening, then we know that there is a belief there that isn't serving us. And if there is, and usually the beliefs that don't serve us are usually based on fear. And there are all sorts of fears. But in the workplace, the two biggest fears are the fear of failure and the fear of rejection. And the fear of failure and the fear of rejection are just smoke screens that our minds create. Now, I could go into the science of why this happens, but anyway, if you want to talk about that a little later, we will. But it's just
yeah, go ahead, John. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, in that case, in our heads, we have a thing called the amygdala. Mm-hmm. And the amygdala is also known as the reptilian brain. And it looks after all of our automatic functions, like our breathing, blinking, the heart beating, that kind of thing. I mean, nobody ever wakes up over a morning and thinks, now there's something I should be doing now. What should I? Oh, yes, heart, beat now. Beat now. Don't talk to me. I need to beat. We don't do that. All of that happens automatically. And inside the amygdala is our instinct for survival. And when it comes to our instinct for survival, it is far safer for us not to go out of our comfort zone. It's far safer for us to be fearful of something because we want to protect ourselves than it is to be brave or bold or to do an action. So our default thinking is to be fearful. So, for instance, if you go to bed of an evening, you're in bed, you're feeling nice and comfortable, you're asleep, and all of a sudden you hear a noise, you wake up, what's the first thought? The first thought in your head is, what's that? In other words, am I safe?
My first thought, John, is wake the wife and
exactly.
Get her to get up.
I get her. Darling,
Hey, love, did you hear that, love?
Go sort it out, love.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, John. Go on, man.
But it is. We have this. So our instinct our sort of default thinking is to be fearful, and it's exactly the same in the business world. It's about being safe. So if we're aware that something that we should be doing is of benefit to us, and if we're aware that we're talking ourselves out of it and it's not illegal, then the solution is very, very simple once we're aware of it, and that is just to do it. Because quite often we're just talking ourselves out, and that's how we no longer progress, because we're talking ourselves out of beneficial things. So if we're intellectually aware of what's going on, then we can do something about it. We can at least make some sort of a decision on whether we do want to proceed or not. Does that make sense?
Right. That makes 100% sense. So let me just mirror that back to you. So this little voice in our head that's there to initially or fundamentally to protect us, right? Protect us from danger from the first day man started walking the earth, and protected us when we were in situations when saber-toothed tigers and dinosaurs were running and trying to eat us, right? That was our survival mechanism, Yeah, go ahead.
By the way, Stuart, if a tiger came into the room, I mean, the number of times that's happened while I've delivered a speech, if a tiger came into the room, then that is good fear. Because
exactly,
that's a situation that we do need to run away from.
Exactly. However, John, how many saber-toothed tigers exist today?
Not many in Bradford.
Not many in Bradford, not many in Huddersfield, where I come from, and I'm sure not many where our listeners come from. Exactly. So the point in case is, even though we have this mechanism, does it really still serve us today? Because there are no saber-toothed tigers and dinosaurs running around that we have to survive from.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it doesn't serve us. So if that's still activated, being aware, like you said, being mindful of that when it kicks in is something that our listeners would serve them very well to be actually know what is actually happening and how to react. And you said basically just walk through it, right? Just do it anyway.
Exactly. As long as we are, Susan Jeffers put it perfectly with the title of her book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Like that. I like that very, very much.
I'd love to take credit for that myself, but anyway. And by the way, that's the same. And when you mentioned before about focus, and we can talk more about focus in a little while, but I just want to touch on this focus. It's the same when it comes to managing change. Because when we have change in our lives, what tends to happen is that we have that, sometimes we have that fear of, well, not fear, we think, oh no, not again. There is that thought in our heads, right, am I good enough this time? Will I be able to do this again? Do I really have the resources? I don't know if I can cope this time. So with change, there we have the fear of the unknown. And the fear of the unknown is a very close relation to the fear of failure. Because like I said, we think, oh, am I good enough? Can I do this again? And usually we can cope. In fact, we don't give ourselves the credit for coping with change because we are all masters at dealing with change. How do I know that? Because we're all here. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, in our lives, if you've got married, you had to deal with change. If you came out of a relationship, you had to deal with change. You got kids, you had to deal with change. If you lost someone in your life, you had to deal with change. If you got a new job, if the car broke down this morning, we're dealing with change all of the time. Therefore, if we've been successful at dealing with change in the past, then the chances are that we are going to be successful at dealing with change in the future. It's not guaranteed. It might be painful for us to deal with that change, but the thing is, we are going to get through it. And we are going to be successful. And that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on the fact that we really do have the resources to cope with whatever we need to cope with. I honestly believe that. Now, okay, I'm not saying, and I've got to be perfectly open and honest here, there are times, even in my life, when I would look to say, you know what, I don't worry about change at all. I know that I'll course through it. I still have those moments from time to time where I think, oh, crikey, what am I going to do now? But that's okay, because I acknowledge that fear, and then I think, right, okay, now what am I going to do about this? And then I focus on what I need to do.
John, you mentioned fear of failure and rejection. I just wanted to still stay on this topic of fear, because I think it's just something that's something that's a really common topic out there, and a problem that people deal with on a day, or have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
So one of the things that I've read about, and I'm not an expert on this, you are the expert, so I'd like you to shed some light on this, is that one of the biggest fears that people have is the fear of public speaking.
Oh, yeah.
Could you just shed some light on that for us, please?
Right, okay. What tends to happen is with the fear of speaking, usually that is, am I going to be made to look foolish? And in my view, that is related to the fear of rejection, as well as the fear of failure. Oh, if I look like an idiot, what's going to happen? I'm going to lose my job. People are going to think that nobody will talk to me. I'm going to be rejected, or whatever it might be. The way to overcome that fear in public speaking, and I think with a lot of actions as well, is, in particular public speaking, is really preparation. First of all, I don't know a single audience. I've not come across a single audience yet where the audience. Have you ever sat in an audience waiting for a speaker to come on and thought to yourself, "I hope this next speaker's a load of rubbish"?
No, not at all.
No, you're thinking, I hope they're very good. I've come here to learn something. If you've never met the speaker before, if you've never heard them speak, then you usually have an open mind. But you're there to learn. From a speaker's point of view, certainly from an amateur speaker's point of view, quite often they think, right, what if I fumble my words? What if I get the information wrong? What if I dry up? What's going to happen? The way to overcome that fear is preparation. So what you need to do is you need to prepare what it is that you're going to say. You need to do your homework about the audience. Who is this audience? What kind of information do they need? And if possible, and if I'm speaking at an event, I have a briefing sheet, and there's about 30 questions in there, because I want to know as much about the audience as I possibly can. Because what I do is I talk about my life and my successes and my failures and how I've overcome them, but then I've got to relate it back to the audience, because it's got to relate back to them. They've got to say, all right, I can now use this information in my life. And I can only do that by speaking to the person who books me and asking various questions about the audience. So, for instance, recently, about a couple of days ago, I spoke at a major retail conference, about 600 people in the audience. What do I know about retail? I was talking about achievement thinking, but all the principles, all the elements that I talked about, the tools that I gave them, I applied back to their business so that they could relate to what they did in their working lives. So when it comes to public speaking, the secret is preparation, knowing your audience, knowing what you're going to say, and then there comes rehearsal. When I say rehearsal, I'm talking about practicing and rehearsing. I have a small bedroom, and I pretend I have an audience of 50, an audience of 1,000 in that room, and I go through my speech. Now, I don't learn it word for word, but I rehearse it. And the reason why I do that is that before I'm due to go on stage, a few minutes before I go on stage, even though I've been speaking for 26 years, even today, for the first 3 minutes before I go on stage, I am scared stiff. There have been times when I've even forgotten my own name. But the difference is this. Well, it's true, because there's that. But the difference is the fear that I have is the fear that I want to get this right, not the fear that I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. It's because you care. It's because you care about your audience,
exactly.
right?
I care about my audience.
Right. Okay.
So, and it's there's an expression, and it's called making the butterflies fly in formation. Now, when it comes to this fear, the brain doesn't know our bodies. When it comes to fear of failure, say, and when it comes to excitement, our brain does not know the difference. Because the actual way, for instance, the heart beating quicker, breaking out to a bit of a sweat, they're exactly the same feelings, whether we are scared stiff or whether we are excited. The only difference is that is what's going on in our brains. So before I'm due to go on stage, because I've done my homework and because I've done my preparation, and I'm saying this to any other people who want to do speaking, if you do your preparation, then you'll do your job well, and the fear is reduced. You'll still get that last minute jitters, but the feeling is. I mean, if I remember, I'm a member of the Professional Speaking Association, and a few years ago, it was my job to open the conference and there's a room full of about 150, 175 professional speakers.
Oh my goodness!
And for 15, not for 3 minutes, for about 15 minutes before I was due to go on stage, I was at the back of the set, and I'm going, "You idiot! What are you doing here? These are professional speakers. Why did you agree to do this? You are an idiot." Because you see, there's that negative, unhelpful self-talk. And each time I've gone on stage, I've always, about maybe 30 seconds before I'm due to go on stage, the thought goes into my head, blow this. Well, you can fill in your own words. This
is a family show. It is a family show. Go ahead.
I'll let you decide what words I use, but I'll clean this up. I think, well, blow this. I know what I'm talking about. I do this professionally. And they'll either love me or they'll hate me. I'm just going to go on there and have fun. And they're either with me or they're not. And because I let go, then I went on stage. And after the first, 5-10 seconds, then I relaxed and and that was it. It's, in fact, funnily enough, it wasn't a speaking competition, but they had speakers from all over the world. There must have been about 10, 12 speakers at the event. And I was voted the best speaker at the event.
Wow.
So, awesome. Which was fantastic for me. And anyway, but yeah.
So you survived, and you're still here today. You're still alive, right?
I'm still. I just checked my pulse. Hang on. Yes. I'm here.
So, in spite of you, all that negative self-talk, and you feeling like you were almost like close to death, you're still here today and sharing all these great insights.
But that's the point with fear. I believe that it's that negative self-talk because of the amygdala. It's our wonderful subconscious mind is all it's doing is doing its best to keep us safe. Right. That's why it stops us from progressing. And it's the same when it comes to achieving your dreams in life. All your wonderful subconscious mind is doing is just doing its best to keep you safe. Right. So we can't blame it for that. But we need to intellectually think, right, okay, let's have a look at this situation. What is at risk here? What is the real risk here? All right, my ego may be a little dented at the end of this. What's the worst that's going to happen? My ego will be dented. In that case, is it worthwhile doing? Right, let's do it. So that's it. So just do it. And not only that, if you do make a mess of things, if you think about it, in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, next week, what are people going to be saying? Are you going to be ostracized from society? I mean,
let me ask you, John. What happened the very first time you spoke in front of people? What happened? How was that experience?
Like, you're talking about 30 years ago. I can't remember.
Because you must have some kind of connection there to what actually happened. Was you perfect?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm perfect all the time. Did you not know that, Stuart? I wouldn't lie to you. I wouldn't lie to you for the world. For money, yes, but not for the world. Right.
Come on, spill the beans, John. Spill the beans. Come on.
I believe, in fact, my first book, it wasn't speaking in front of an audience. It was because my background is as a magician. So it was performing magic in front of an audience. And as I remember, the show, when I say it was a good show, considering my lack of experience in front of an audience, it was good. I mean, I practiced and I rehearsed, and I think it's like anything else. When we do something for the first time, it'll be good, it'll be okay, but it's not until we do it on a regular basis that we become really good at it.
Right.
So,
okay, John, you spoke about being mindful. You spoke about being in the moment, being present, and just slowing down. You've also addressed fear of failure and rejection, and we just spoke a little bit about public speaking and how important it is just to prepare so that it will reduce the nerves.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you mind if I like to expand on this slowing down business?
Absolutely. And this has nothing to do with your sex life, right?
No, okay, in my dreams.
Okay, that's good, because it is a family show. Okay, over to you, John.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. All of a sudden, about 87 one-liners have come to my mind, and I cannot use any single one of them. So let's move on to focus. Well, actually, when I say focus, I'm talking about slowing down. And I do think this is very, very important, because I find this with a lot of audiences that I speak in front of, and the people that I talk to, they say, "But John, we don't have time to slow down. We're busy people. What are you talking about? We can't do it." What I have found is that for me, when I say slow down, I mean pausing. I do this about at least 3 times every day. And you only need to do this for between 2 to 5 minutes. In fact, 2 to 5 minutes the first time you do it in the day. And then throughout the day, you'll even get away with 30 seconds. But I normally do it for about 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So, for instance, first thing in the morning, I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I do whatever I need to do in the bathroom, and then I go downstairs into my front room, and I sit in my comfy chair. If you're happy in your hard back chair, then that's fine. And then I just go quiet. I make my mind go as blank as much as it can do, and I focus on my breathing, about a dozen deep breaths or so, and I just go quiet. And after about a minute, I will just ask myself the question, is what I'm focusing on right now taking me towards or away from what I want to achieve? Or is what I'm doing right now taking me towards or away from what I want to achieve? But I then go quiet. So this slowing down is only for a few minutes. And then throughout the day, I'll find times just to pause for maybe 1 or 2 minutes at a time where I can go quiet. And that might be, for instance, I might be brushing my teeth. So while I'm brushing my teeth, I'll just go quiet. It might be that I am making myself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. So while the kettle's boiling, I will just stand there by the kettle and I'll just go quiet. And I use that time to reflect, to pause, to think, is what I'm doing right now, is it taking me towards or away from what I want to achieve? Now, this is something I don't know if I should admit to this in public, and I'm not sure if our listener actually does this or not. But anyway, I'll mention it. I don't know if you want to admit to this, and if you do, let's have Charterhouse rules. Okay, Charterhouse rules. What goes on in this interview stays in this interview. Okay.
Yeah, amongst the 3 million listeners,
okay,
also, not a problem.
I would like to know if any of our listeners during the day, if they by any chance, and be open about this, and nobody will judge you, right? Does anybody ever go to the toilet? Does anybody? Do they still do that nowadays? I don't know why people do that, because they've not got time. What are they talking about? What's wrong with them? Now, this is what I do. Whenever I go to the loo, I always go into a cubicle, and I always I do whatever I need to do, and then before I go out and wash my hands, I will just lean on the side of the cubicle wall just for a minute and a half, and I'll pause, and that gives me chance to reflect, to think, right, okay, this next task that I'm about to do, is it taking me towards what I want to achieve, or am I just distracting myself from what it is that I'm doing? So it's about finding those times where those things that we might do during the day, where we can just add an extra minute, where we can just pause and give ourselves time to reflect. And that does several things. It helps us to stay focused, great, but also it helps with reducing stress levels. And if you think about it, and I've studied this, some people might say, hang on a minute, John, but that's a meditation that you're talking about. I'm sorry, I don't do meditation. All right, well, try with these other words for size. For you, you might feel better with prayer or stillness or reflection or visualization or visioning. Whichever word suits you, use that word. Because in virtually every discipline in life, like religion, we talk about prayer. In spirituality, we talk about meditation. Even medically, biologically, doctors will say, pause, be mindful, take a pause in your day. So in every discipline in our lives, we're being told, slow down, take a pause. And if we're mindful that we're not pausing, then we should include more pauses. And as I say, it's just literally, at the worst, 2 times a day. The more often you can do it, for 30 seconds, 90 seconds, the better.
In terms of the people who you help, John, and you mentioned that you work on the mindset needed to achieve and to build resilience and manage change, as well as those people who have challenges staying motivated and focused, and people who are literally just getting in their own way to achieve achieving their goals. Over the last 26 years, what are 2 to 3 popular misconceptions that actually prevent these people that you work with from achieving their desired goals? Could you just share maybe 1 or 2 of those popular misconceptions, please?
Okay, well, the biggest misconception is I do not have the time. So, I've got so much to do with so little time, so few. They say that they don't have the time. So that's why I say that we need to pause, because I think they think that we need to pause for an hour at a time or something. No, we don't. We just need to pause. It's like short bursts, if you like, for about 30 to 60 seconds. Other misconceptions might be, actually another misconception, and this is very big, is that we cannot ask for help from others, or I mustn't ask for help from others, because if I ask for help, then that's going to show that I'm a weak person, or that I'm not capable of doing what I should be doing. If I ask for help, I'm not going to be of any value. In fact, this was one of the beliefs, because we were talking about earlier on about having beliefs that are unhelpful. This is one of the beliefs that I had that was phenomenally unhelpful to me. In fact, in 2002, my business went downhill, and that was one of the reasons, because I thought, if I ask for help, people are going to think I'm weak. No, we need to get rid of that misconception, because if we ask for help, then that shows that we have an awareness of our environment, of our limitation, or what we think our limitations might be. It shows that we have a willingness to learn and to grow, and it shows that we have character, wisdom, and courage. Mm-hmm. And I have found in my life that by asking for help, I get more respect from people than I do by showing bravado and thinking, oh, yes, I don't need any help because I'm fine. We need to put our egos to one side and ask for the help that we need when we need it. Now, there is a caveat to that, and the caveat is I don't think that we should go into the shopping centre and go, okay, everybody, help me.
No, that wouldn't go down too well. I
don't think that'd be very wise. I don't think that we should go on a radio programme and say, Stuart, thank you for interviewing me, but I must tell you now, oh my God, help me. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
I was expecting that. I'm rather disappointed now, John.
What I'm saying is that we need to find confidants. We need to find people confidants who can confide in. And we all have people in our network that we can approach and ask for help. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know what, I'm not really too sure how to go about doing this. I think I know what to do, but I wonder if you could help me. I'm thinking of doing this. Do you know of any other options? Or do you know somebody who's gone through this before me who might be able to make my life a little easier and tell me what they did? So I know that asking for help is a major, major thing, especially for leaders. Oh, I'm the leader. I'm the chief executive. I can't ask for help. They're the people that should be asking for help, not because they need help, but because from time to time, we need that help. We're all human at the end of the day. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to this so much, John, because this is something that I struggled with for years and years and years, and only recently have learned to, as you said, set my own ego aside. I've been able to step back and say, hey, Stu, this just simply cannot work, because I'm a natural, if there's such a thing, perfectionist. And I just love to do everything myself, or I used to. Now I'm learning how just to let it go. But up until about 6 months ago, John, I was always a person that wanted to have everything perfect, an absolute perfectionist. And the very thought of letting something go for somebody else to take care of, that filled me with absolute dread. So asking for help was the very last thing on my mind. People used to say to me, Stu, just ask for help. If you need any help, just ask me. And I'm thinking, yes, nice gesture, but come on, you can't do what I do. There's no way you can do it the same.
Yeah.
And it's only since I took on the help of a mentor about 6 months ago. And one of the things that he shared with me in the very first session that I had, and it's just so profound and it has changed my life, he said to me, Stuart, perfection is not when there is nothing left to add. It's when there's nothing left to take away.
Yeah.
And that just resonated with me so much, because that's exactly what I was doing. I had so many projects on my table, and because of my perfectionism, my drive to be perfect, they never left my table. So I had all these unfinished stuff because I just simply was resisting asking for help. And once I started to let go of my own ego, or once I realized this was all about me, it's about my ego, and started to let go and ask for help, like you said, the river gates just opened up. There were so many people there. I can do that. I can do that. Yeah. And that's freed me up to do other things which I'm really, which I was born to do. I'm not really born to do all of these hands-on $2 activities. Yeah. Now I let go of all of that and focus on driving my business. Yeah.
I would like to just add to the perfection thing. Perfection, once again, that is usually driven by fear.
Exactly.
Fear of failure and fear of rejection. Right, if this isn't done right, then I might be rejected. Or if this isn't done right, I don't want to fail. And I found recently, now for instance, I'm putting together a half day. I generally just deliver 1 hour, 1.5 hour keynote speeches at events. And I'm now finding that there's a demand that people are saying, do you do a half-day workshop? Do you do a full-day workshop? I'm thinking, oh, crikey, okay, and I'm putting together a half-day workshop, which is great. And for me, the way I'm going to be doing a run-through. And in my head, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, why is it I'm fearful of doing this run-through? Because part of my brain is saying, oh, I need to make this right. This needs to be right from the very beginning. No, if we fail, this is going to be the first time that I do this run-through with my friends. And it will be a good workshop. And the reason why it's good, because there's the demand for my style of delivery with the magic and the humor that I give. That's why people are wanting it. So when I deliver it the first time, it will be good. But it will be even better once I've done it 2 or 3 times with my friends. Because failure is an opportunity to learn. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
So in my head, what I'm doing now is that I'm using the same techniques that I use all the time, thinking, no, just carry on, get on with this, right? Because this is going to be a phenomenal opportunity for you. So let's do this. So I'm now excited about doing this. Okay, there's still that little seed of, oh, I'm a little bit worried in the back of my mind, but I now know that that is just my wonderful subconscious mind trying to protect me. And there is no fear. There's nothing to be worried about because it's not life-threatening. What's the worst that's going to happen? My mates are going to turn around and go, that was pathetic, it was awful. And then they'll turn around and say, let's make it better. So there's going to be an opportunity, whatever I do, there's an opportunity for making it better. I mean, it's not going to be bad. It'll be good. But at least, and I'm saying is that's the worst that will happen. So anyway.
So would it be safe to say there is no fear of rejection or fear of failure when it comes to implementing change?
I now look upon failure as an opportunity to learn. It's feedback. Because if you get something wrong, then you're going to learn how not to do something. So it just means let's try it in a different way. So I now look at failure. In fact, I wish I came up with this saying. I don't know who to credit for this, but it's not mine. But it's failure does not define you. Giving in defines you. So for me, it's failure is just an opportunity to learn how to do something.
I like that, John. Okay, so over all the years that you've been working, John, your 26 years of experience of helping people to have the right mindset needed to achieve and to build resilience and manage change. I'm sure you found yourself in situations where you're consulting and everything, is ticking the boxes. Yes, this is great. I know I can help this person. And then they turn around at the very last minute and say, John, no, I'm not going to go ahead with this. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to make the investment. What is it? Why did they do that? Is it a question of price? Is it time commitment? What others may think? What's your experience?
To be perfectly frank, I'm not too sure. The answer varies. I mean, sometimes it's because they're going through so much change in their organizations that they don't really know what they want to do themselves.
Right.
So they're just going from one thing to another all right, this has changed now, this has changed. In fact, there's been 3 very large organizations that have approached me, and there is so much change going on. They don't really know what to do next. Whereas the main thing they need to do is to pause for a little while and have a good think about what they want to do. In fact, what they need to do is think about their long-term strategy, where they want to be long-term. As opposed to quite often that these organizations are thinking about short-term delivery and they tend to be firefighting. We do need to pause from time to time. As far as hiring my services are concerned, that can vary for whatever reason. So I wish I could answer that. Sometimes it is price, although the organizations that I've worked with, I've helped organizations hit their annual sales target 3 months early. So, and the fee that I charged was a fraction of that amount. So anyway, it's whatever it is.
So do you ever come across any people who are just not convinced that it will work for them?
Yeah, well, I'm sure, because at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. And whatever it is. What I'm grateful for is that there are far more people who are convinced that it works. So all I can do is really work with them.
Right. Okay.
So, I'd love to convert the others. I'll do my best to help, and I will give information, and I will be as helpful as I can. But I can only go so far with that because we're all in a business at the end of the day.
John, we've had an opportunity to listen to some great advice from you, some great feedback, but we've not really gone into who is John Hotowka. I'm sorry.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah. Hotowka.
You know what? I'm so impressed at the way you mispronounce my name.
Hotowka. Sorry.
That's a good Yorkshire name, I'll have you know.
It is, isn't it? Right. Typical Yorkshire name. All right, then. Let's do that one again.
No, I think you should keep that in. I think that's good.
You think you should keep it in? Okay.
It shows that we're human.
That's true. All right, then. We'll leave that one in then. So with that said, John, yeah.
with that said, yeah. What
we're saying was, we've had an opportunity to listen to some great advice, to some really good feedback.
Yeah.
We haven't had an opportunity to hear a little bit about who is John Hotowka.
Who is John?
John Hotowka.
Yeah, I know. I'm impressed. Go on. So specifically, what would you like to?
I'm supposed to put you on the spot. You're not supposed to put me on the spot here, right? No. So please, John, a little bit, briefly, your backstory. How did you get to where you are today? What got you started, influenced you, etc. Go ahead, man.
It all started when I was born in Bradford because I wanted to be near my mother at the time.
Nice one.
All right, so the backstory is this, very briefly. In 1989, I was made redundant for the 3rd time as an optician. I used to be an optician. And so that was the 16th of June, 1989. And that weekend, I was so sick with worry. I thought, what am I going to do? Because I really didn't like optics anymore. And nothing wrong with being an optician. It's just that it wasn't for me. And I decided to follow my passion, which was magic. I love magic. And I started off by performing close-up magic tricks around the tables in local restaurants in Yorkshire. And in 12 years, I built up my career, my business, to such a degree that I was working for nearly half of the blue chip companies in the UK. I was being flown around, up and down the country, around Europe, entertaining their top clients, their executive boards. And I wasn't doing little tricks around the tables anymore. I was actually in front of audiences of about 600, 700, 800 people at a time, where I was using my magic to communicate their corporate messages. So it might be a product launch. In fact, I remember once doing a product launch for caravan chassis. How sexy is that? I was responsible for the magic of thread. For cause, I never knew thread was magical, but there you go. That was me. But I was promoting these products and services and speaking at their events. And in 2002, I had a massive crisis in confidence. So my business went downhill. And I started studying successful people. For me, it was very much also a spiritual journey and finding out about me as well. Not a religious journey. There's nothing wrong with religion. It's just that it was my kind of bag. But I certainly went down the spiritual route. And when I started learning about these successful people and what they did, I started formulating my own ideas and insights. And that's how I came about achievement thinking. And about 6 years ago or so, people were saying, you've been in business now for about 20 odd years. How is it that you've kept yourself motivated and focused? And I thought, oh, crikey, how have I done that? And that's how I came up with achievement thinking. I consolidated my ideas, and that's basically what happened. And I won't say I've never looked back since. I love doing what I do. But just like everybody else, we all have our challenges. But today, I'm delighted to say is that even though there are times when I think, am I really on the right track? Overall, I love what I'm doing, and I love the challenges because it just gives me an opportunity to prove to myself that I can do this and that my techniques and insights work.
We're running out of time here, John. So
I want to go around again. Can we go around?
Listen, I could sit here and talk with you all night. It's been so much fun, but unfortunately, we do have some time constraints, my friend. So, with that said, John, if there's anybody out there that's listening to this and they're thinking, this John, he sounds like a pretty cool guy. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and he could definitely help me with my mindset and helping to build my resilience and to manage the change that I've been thinking about for such a long time. If there is somebody out there like that, companies who are wanting to keep their employees motivated, who are wanting to help them to focus more and to get out of the way of achieving their goals, how do they get in touch with John? How do they do that? Where do they find you?
So they can either find me through my website, which is www.hotowka, that's H-O-T for Thomas, O-W-K-A.co.uk. That's hotowka.co.uk. They can email me at John, that's John, John at hotowka.co.uk, or look me up on LinkedIn, John Hotowka. I'm the only only Hotowka on the planet. Look me up on LinkedIn. Look at the recommendations that I've got on there. So that they seem to be growing. I think that's the best way of contacting me.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to a man that is full of wit, full of wisdom, but also experience. He knows what he's talking about. So if you do want to get in touch with John, I'll make sure that his contact details are included in the show notes. Please reach out to him. You're going to be in very, very good hands. So before we leave, John, any final words?
Life is what you make it, so make it magic. The choice is yours. Stuart, thank you so very, very much for inviting me on your program. And I wish all your listeners continued success.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.